The stimulus is given, the impulse has to go through the motor image centers. Did you know that? I did not know that for a long time, but eventually I found out. But without the motor cortex, what would your bodies be doing? What? Dying, probably. Be a blob anyway. Now, can the motor cortex be trained? Have any of you ever learned to ride a bicycle? Did you teach the motor cortex how to do it? And when the motor cortex learned to do it, what happened? It became automatic. Did you ever learn to drive a car? Yes, the motor cortex can be trained. If the motor cortex can be trained on anything, how did you learn to speak a language? That's the motor cortex doing this. The reason I had a little difficulty with Italian versus French and German and English, French and German and English all use the same mouth and tongue movements. Did you know that? But Italian is different. You have to build in a whole separate motor cortex response program for that, because easy. We say easy in French, and it's facile in Spanish, and it's facile in French and everything like that, but in Italian it's facile. And I said, why am I having such a tough time? I was trying to learn this in the Romance language motor cortex units over there, but you have to build a whole new one, right? So if you build a motor cortex program which matches what you want to do, it can become trained and it will become automatic. That is now beginning to be understood. That's what happens in good remote viewing training, by the way. You build a program into the motor cortex which takes care of the information signals and so forth, and you don't have that to start with, but you can create that and build it. Now, do you have some idea why, as this is my 5th swan song and it may be my last, I wanted to tell you a little bit why the future is going to change with respect to all of these things that we've been mutually interested in. I rest my case. Are there questions? Last time I spoke, you drove me off the speaking platform before I was done. Do I have time for 3 questions? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the contestants.
Well, I think you'd have to get that book. What is your question?
What exactly is it?
They don't know. They can talk about it. They can assign a name to it. And then they say quintessence, and that's the name for it, but they don't know what it really is. Do you know what love really is? It's an experiential feeling, and it's called, you assign a word to it, then you think you can talk about it, and you know what the word means, and so you think you know what it is. But basically, it's an experiential experience. And if you've never had that experience, you won't understand the word. Right? Okay. The book. I bow to the book, by the way, because it's rather out of my expertise, and I think you should go to a direct source. Yes, sir.
You say this is going to change the future. How do you expect the future to change if we have this policy of no child left behind? They can't even get outside of math and science.
Well, at my age, I don't care anymore. Sorry, Bill. Yes, ma'am.
Translation question. I was wondering about the word entanglement and the Sanskrit language. Does it in fact translate precisely?
Yes, in this case, yes. And it is used, Sanskrit has 5 or 6 different words for the same thing, as this lady mentioned. And so, when you translate one of those words into English, you take the nearest English equivalent, and that's what you pop onto it. But most English words don't have 5 or 6 different variations of them, but Sanskrit does have that. But entanglement which is actually a very old word. You know, the early theosophists were using it, and a number of the alchemical researchers of bygone years. Metals get entangled. You know, yes, it's a perfectly good word. It's just very seldom used. And the other word that's very seldom used when things are translated English is interpenetration. But you can go to Sanskrit sources to sort this out, and I advise you to do that if you're interested. Yes, sir?
I admire you for your courage, but I want to ask about the future. Should people pick up on your work where you left off, or should they pursue their own style, like pursue their own?
Well, they do that anyway, anywhere, in any field. Everybody wants to do one-upsmanship. And so I don't blame them. I think that's fair. You know, I did my lot because I got paid for it. Well, a little bit anyway. And I wouldn't have done it actually, except a very highly placed person appealed to me saying, "It's your national duty to do this." And I said, "Oh." I said, "How much do I get paid?" That went on for about 7 years, by the way. Any questions from over here? Yes, sir.
Do you ever feel like you affected a remote viewing target by viewing it, or is it just more like passively receiving information?
Well, we only have one confirmed event on that, and that's the famous magnetometer experiment. But when you're trying to, you see, the CIA wanted psychic spies. And we figured out we could get the person there by coordinates, which really did work, you know. But we didn't know if we ever affected anything there. But the magnetometer result came about. A lot of you are not familiar with it, you know. I was dragged off one day to the